We know that the issue in Springfield, Ohio is an issue in many places across the Midwest. And the issue people want to make about immigration policy. Well, in a part, it is. This idea, as when I was in Springfield, about temporary protected status, TPS, and is this just an end around by the Biden-Harris administration regarding how to get people into the country? You tell people, you say to everybody, they're here on temporary protected status, and then it's like, oh, okay, they're in the country legally. You can't get upset if they're in the country legally, but what is the purpose for bringing them into the country? And we seemingly hear that the answer is jobs, jobs, jobs. You got to get the jobs filled. You got to have the jobs over here. I don't disagree, by the way. I've never disagreed. Tony Katz today. Great to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. It's a question of, if you're bringing people in for the jobs and utilizing this temporary protected status, are you creating a de facto jobs program by which the employer is able to hire people and pay less than maybe they'd pay American workers? And even if that is the case, which we can argue the problems therein, and which are massive, what about the very idea that there are towns that are having an issue with the influx? And now we have people questioning whether the influx is really the issue. Angela Ganote joins me right now, anchor and reporter over at Fox 59 out of Indianapolis, Indiana, who did the legwork and the reporting about a place called Logansport, which is about 80 miles north of Indianapolis, Indianapolis being dead center in Indiana, and how they're dealing with an increase in Haitian migrants and others. Angela, it's good to be with you. It's good to have you on the show. Of course, we've known of each other for a while here, both being in this area and in this market. Talk to me about when the story of Logansport came to you. What was it that you were told? What was it that you found?
So this began more than now 7 weeks ago, and it was before I had really heard anything at all, before Springfield was a story in the national spotlight. So I had gotten a question from a viewer. I do a segment all the time called Angela Answers, and people literally ask me a question, can you find the answer to this? So there was a woman who has an association with people at the hospital. She sent me a group of text messages that said, I want you to look at these messages. Can you get me the truth? We're being told that there is, at this time, the way that the story came to me, is that there was a TB outbreak. That was their concern, and wondering why people weren't talking about that.
TB being tuberculosis.
Absolutely. So that was the first question to me. So that's how I started 7 weeks ago, reaching out to hospital, health department, county health department, city health department, county counselors, mayor, you name it. I went to Logansport, and I talked to as many people as I could. When it comes to, let's just kind of, I don't want to say debunk or talk about the TB portion of it to begin with, there are currently under 5 cases. And when it comes to latent TB, meaning there's not an outbreak and they say that you can't spread the illness, there are under 60 cases. So they say there is not an outbreak. However, when the health department is going to the county commissioner meetings monthly, they're talking about their concern and talking about how they're trying to get treatment for people. So that part of it came out of the county commissioner meeting and a question to me saying, Ange, can you please tell us, is there a reason to be concerned that, along with the cost of what our city is now paying and our county for other services when it comes to people on Medicaid going to the hospital and people getting different services that our city is now, they thought the city was giving them the services, and they wanted clarification and wanted me to try to answer all of that question really on TV in about 4 minutes that I got.
So what they want to know is, here we have this medical issue, not yet an outbreak, but certainly could be a problem. Who's paying for this? In the end, they want to know, was the money coming locally or the money was coming nationally? What did you discover, and where did that lead the reporting next?
So what I learned through, just to kind of go back a second, really, really hard to get any answers. And because of what happens when you have a delicate conversation, there are people that are too afraid to talk on camera. Most people don't want to talk on camera because they're afraid they're going to be called, many things that I've been called in the last week, just for trying to answer somebody's question. So what I found so far, and again, not having a lot of information, the governor has not talked to us yet. We do understand, although we have not talked to obviously every immigrant, that there are people coming on the temporary protected status and also the program which is known as CHNV. So we know that through those programs, we know that there is a percentage of the people now going to the hospital, 20 to 30%, maybe more, that are on Medicaid. So the question becomes, if you are a county hospital that's already having issues paying your bills, what level of sustainability or what level of people coming to your community now really breaks what you're doing or what helps what you're doing? For example, if you come in and you have 5,000 new people coming to your city, and those 5,000 people are on, have a job where they have private insurance and they're paying through their private insurance, that person's going to pay more, or the hospital's going to typically get reimbursed more than they would if somebody's on Medicaid and they're getting reimbursed for that. So the question becomes, at what point is a hospital, can they sustain who is coming to their town and what that person is bringing to the town?
Not only what do they bring to the town to an advantage, but to a potential disadvantage or a taking of services. Talking to Angela Ganote, reporter and anchor over at Fox 59, affiliate Indianapolis, talking about a town called Logansport. And as we see in Springfield, Ohio, and many places across the Midwest, how immigration and in this case, quote unquote, legal immigration through temporary protected status is affecting the town and towns just like it, whether they be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Memphis, Tennessee, or Detroit, or St. Louis. There's a Tyson plant. There's a chicken plant there, and supposedly a lot of jobs being taken. Tyson is good money, you were told. They, meaning these migrants, make good money. Was there a conversation about people coming in and the jobs they're taking regarding either A, good for the city, or B, taking jobs from others, as often gets discussed?
Yeah, so this was a hard one because when you first bring up Tyson, whether it be the mayor or anyone that you talk to, they say, I don't speak for Tyson. I'm not, you have to talk to Tyson. Well, Tyson didn't talk to me. So
right.
All I know is that obviously they employ about 2,700 or 2,800 people. I talked to one immigrant while I was there who used to work for Tyson. And he said, in his opinion, many people were coming because they thought that Tyson was a good employer and that they wanted to, that Tyson would provide them with a good income. Again, this was one person that said that. I don't have any other information other than hearing from him saying that's why people were coming. And then when I was doing an interview with the school, the superintendent and one of the assistants there, they were talking to me kind of just out of the blue, said, well, we have teenagers who work third shift. We have students that work third shift. So now we've started a new program at our high school to help those that have come to work and who are working third shift. So I said, well, wait a minute. You have high school kids? Like, do you mean 18-year-olds? What age group do you have that are working third shift? And I was startled as a mother of a 17-year-old. They said, is he or she working at Tyson? And they said, well, we didn't say where they're working. I said, well, no, I'm asking. I mean, because if you're bringing immigrants here, and I mean, I'm assuming that they're 18, but we just saw that there was a raid in Tyson in September in Arkansas. The story just came out last week when a teacher said there was an 11-year-old working. Yeah. So I don't know that that's true, but that is under investigation. So is this not worthy of a conversation to have Tyson say on the record, no, we have no one in our building working these machines and around the equipment that we have that is under blank age, and we can document that and show you we have proof to make everybody feel better. Well, when they won't answer questions and you have a school system saying that their high schoolers are working third shift, you leave a big gap for people to wonder and think the worst.
This leads to some of the response that you got, Angela, which is people aren't interested in the reporting. They're not interested in the story. They're not interested in the question. Rather, you're talking about migrants or TPS, illegal immigration. You're talking about Haitians. You must be a racist. You must be a bigot. You're absolutely awful. Has this been a preponderance of people? Has this been a vocal minority of people? What is the response that you've gotten from this piece?
Definitely a minority of people. People are glad that this is being discussed. However, you know as well as I do that the negative seems to get amplified. And when somebody comes at you, I want to say, I'm kind of thinking this is something that you're accustomed to, maybe more than me. But when someone says you're shameful, they say you're shameful for trying to answer a question for somebody. That is disgusting to me, to have someone say, I'm shameful for answering a question. You know, and I go back to, I was also shameful when some nurses at a local hospital baptized a dead baby, and a certain population called me shameful for doing that story. I say, when someone comes to me with a question, a legitimate question, and they have a concern, and when I start looking through something and I can't get answers, and it's hard, or they have a legitimate concern or question that needs to be answered, it's not shameful to have that discussion. And the person that also called me shameful, this is just one, they also said, well, of course, there's a good story there in talking about these services and possibly the drain, but it's shameful that you would talk about it. And I said, wait a minute. We can't have a discussion about what is sustainable. Maybe the mayor is lying. Maybe the mayor of Logansport is lying when he says that his city can't sustain it. Maybe they can. Maybe that's the follow-up story. Prove to us, the Logansport mayor, that he can sustain it, and he's a liar. I would love to tell that story if that's true. I'm always looking for truth, right? And we should be able to have these conversations and debates without calling people names, or, just take a look at Twitter and you can see some of the names I've been called. Right. I have thick skin, but it's just ridiculous that in this day and age, we can't have just a healthy debate. We can't share information. Of course. Do we want to bring in, do cities and counties need workers? Absolutely. And I'll tell you what about Logansport? They have 28 countries represented there. They speak 27 languages. To try to say anything negative or call it, Logansport racist is got to be maybe the biggest joke ever. They are one of the most diverse communities in miles, right? But they should be allowed to talk about how they're going to pay their bills. And so
that brings us to it, Angela Ganote, Fox 59, local Fox affiliate in Indianapolis, with this reporting that you did about this town called Logansport. Logansport officials say immigrant population growth is unsustainable. It's the story of Springfield and others. And yes, anytime you bring it up, they're calling the townspeople racists or bigots. And of course, that's the obscenity. Did you walk away, when you walked away from this story and you wrote it out? Is that how the people feel, that the population growth, even if we were to consider it small, is putting a strain on the social services and on the services in general of Logansport, Indiana?
Well, let's just take the mayor for one. Okay, he runs the city of Logansport. He says it's a strain. He says that they're, just from what he can tell, he claims, again, I don't know if it's true. I haven't seen all of the numbers, but he says that there's a strain, just for example, on city services like housing, right? With Medicaid, with the hospital, with maybe police runs. If you're having a 20% increase or 30%, is that sustainable? Maybe it is. But can you not, if that's sustainable today and they're able to do it, well, is 35% sustainable? Is 40% sustainable? Is 57% sustainable? At what point are you allowed to talk about it? And are you allowed to say, hey, we might need some help here from the federal government, because all of a sudden, the county is giving the hospital another $3 million to sustain. And again, part of that is capital improvements. They need a new air conditioner. But some of that is, it's not all capital improvements, right? So at what point are things not sustainable? And when are you allowed to have the conversation that you need some federal help?
Angela Ganote, Fox 59, Indianapolis. These stories are happening all across the country, and I appreciate you taking the time to report on it. More to get to. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today.